Yeah, for the presentation, Peter Morris just came into the room. We'll ask Peter to come up, and he's going to introduce auditors, and he will have a few other words about the township's audit that was just completed for 2018.
All right. Yes. A little bit of traffic is there. But my name is Peter Morris, I'm Chair of the Township. My name is Peter Morris, I'm Treasurer of the Township. Thank you for the opportunity to present the auditors. The audit was prepared and filed timely. It's due on the first, and it was needs to be completed on March 31st. I'm happy to say that the opinion was modified, and the modified opinion based upon the basis of the county that was presented, which is cash basis, meaning monies coming in are recorded as receipts, and revenues money going out recorded as expenses. On that basis was a modified opinion, which it has been in the past, which is as good as you're going to get. I don't believe there were any adjustments required to the books, which means that the numbers that the council sees and the supervisor see on a monthly basis require no change, so they're sort of accurate on a month-to-month basis. But the revenues are up, expenses are down. We're watching everything very closely, and I'm happy to report that the township finances are sort of sound. With that being said, I'd like to introduce our auditors from Brook, who continue to do a very good job at a very fair price, and maybe they'll have a little bit to say on that. So, I'll introduce you.
Good evening, my name is Tim Sargent, partner on your account. I was going to Robbie Moeller. You can tell my voice is not all here, so he's going to do the talking for you tonight. I do have a little presentation he's going to go on that now.
Thank you, everyone. So as Tim said, my name is Robert Moeller. I am one of the senior auditors on the accounts. I oversee all the field work that takes place at the end of January. Pretty much another one that Christy and Steve has put up with, where we asking questions and asking for documents, that kind of stuff. So what you have in front of you is really just a broad overview of the results and then just a few little financial highlights. The first page, as Peter mentioned, is an unmodified opinion. In other words, we do issue two opinions, and the reason for that is because the DCED report is on the basis required by the DCED. It's not in accordance with GAAP. So we do add in the note there saying if there's an adverse opinion because it's not in accordance with GAAP. So you do have those two opinions in there. But what you really do care about is that the regulatory basis of the DCED, you do have an unmodified opinion. As you mentioned, we did meet the deadline, so there's no issue with that. There's a lot of emphasis. Every year we look at revenues, expenses, and payroll, those three big ones. Look at the expenditure accounts related to maintenance, that kind of stuff, make sure those capital expenditures are all appropriately picked up. And then it says real estate tax, but I think overall it's really all the tax revenues, making sure that we have third-party confirmations of what actually came in. And other matters, as I said, met the deadline, and throughout the year we're always available. I'm going to turn over to page 2. Just have a few little highlights here. I don't go too far in depth. If you look at the column all the way to the right, you'll see that the total cash balance is actually up about $1 million from last year, which is a little bit misleading because about $400,000 of that is escrow funds. I think about $300 is related to a specific project, village green project. So about $400 isn't really money to work with, because I don't want to go back to the individuals who gave that money to do the whole. The remaining $600 is actually your money for whatever kind of projects that you have. The increase in general funds is not really one source of the increase this year. Special revenue, the big increase there, it went from 1.5 last year to about 2.4, 2.04 this year. The big increase there was due to collecting the expenditures related to the land preservation. Last year, the expenditures for that were over 700,000. This year, they're down around 300. And I think we'll actually get into that a little more on the third or fourth page. But so really, the revenues exceeded your expenses, and it led to increased cash costs that year. If you want to flip over to the next page, you have your major and total revenues. We just picked out a few of the big revenue sources, and then we put the total revenues off to the right-hand side. If you look at it, it is very consistent from year to year. Total revenues this year were about 3.36 million versus 3.29 last year. So really it's about an increase of about 2%, which as people running a township is excited to see, because we want to see consistent steady revenues to provide the services that you want your residents. So that is good news. Everything else is relatively comparable. We have a slight increase in transfer tax due to real estate activity. The EIS taxes is actually also including the land preservation tax in there, and that is up slightly in 2018 as compared to 2017. Moving along, we get down to expenditures. If you look all the way to the right hand, you see that overall total expenditures are down from about 2.9, almost $3 million last year to about 2.7 this year. So expenditures are down about $300,000. And the driving factor behind that is if you look in the middle of the land preservation expenditure, about $795,000 last year, down to about $320,000 this year. And that's due to two large one-time payments for land preservation prior year. And then what we're also seeing is some of these older agreements from 2013, the payments are being made in full at this point because the payment terms are 3 to 5 years, something like that. And the new ones are not as large as ones that were previously about that, 2013, 2014, etc. Outside of that, general government pretty consistent prior year, public safety pretty consistent. Public works up a little bit. It was $935,000 last year, and about $1,028,000 this year. The big increase there, about $100,000, is in your liquid fuels fund, and that's for road projects, maintenance, that kind of thing. Increase this year, not something that you wouldn't expect to see. Debt service, very durable to the prior year, just based off of what is required to pay on your outstanding loan at this time. Outside of that, I don't really have anything else. I just wanted to hit the few bullet ones. I don't want to fall on this week only. But what I will say while I have you all here is I want to make sure that I give my thanks to Christy and Steve and Jackie who was here as Peter's group, or being ready for us to be prepared. I knew everything that we need on the first day really helps us do a more efficient, more effective audit, so that we're not back and forth trying to get documents and have everything we need, so we can actually just focus on doing the work. I'm sure if you guys have any questions or anything like that for me.
Most of the questions we had at the workshop last Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We've got our bridge repair on East Walnut Road is done, where we fixed the gap in the wall back there. And we've been cleaning up cinders and stuff from the winter time. That is done pretty much. We're starting to do some ditching right now. And we've been cutting down some dead and diseased trees that putting a problem on the road that we're afraid to fall or something. So probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we will be seal coating the spot seal coating like we did last year.
The Brook Community Partnership held its meeting yesterday morning, and it was the day to have our presenters looking for grant monies give their presentations. There were 6. We had a Girl Scout working on her Silver Award, a Boy Scout working on his Eagle Scout project, the Under 4 initiative at the Brook Food Pantry, the Hearts and Hands Community Center in Indian Run for their summer youth program, the 20 Valley Educational Foundation, for an after-school tutoring program for the third and fourth graders at the Honeybrook Elementary Center and Honeybrook Youth Center. I don't envy the committee having to decide to whom and what to give, but they'll have to figure it out soon because they will be announced at an event, social gathering at the Longway Hall on April 23rd from 5:30 to 7:30. And the board is certainly welcome. If any of you would like to attend, please let me know. They would like a head count. And then we'll find out who gets what money this year from the partnership. I attended the Southeastern Pennsylvania chapter, the Chester County Secretaries of Government Association meeting on March 24th. And the Southeastern Pennsylvania chapter of the Sierra Club gave a presentation on the Ready for 100 campaign. And this is a goal that some Chester County municipalities have committed to be 100% renewable energy by 2050. And I've included some information in your board packs on some resources specifically for the supervisors. And lastly, a reminder to everyone that the township offices will be closed on Friday, April 19, in observance of Good Friday.
Yes. First of all, I'd just like to point out that the Walnut Road Bridge project that Don just completed is another great example of what the public works staff can do. This was a project that the township could have gone out to bids and had repaired. It would have been at significant cost. Don, working with folks at Technicon, came up with a simpler way to do it, and also a way that Don and his staff were very comfortable with getting it done. Don, how long did the whole project take?
2.5 days.
So in 2.5 days, we completed something at a very modest cost, but we couldn't have even had these specifications written for that particular cost. So, you know, a lot of kudos for Don and his staff over there. Just a couple other items. The Vision Partnership Grant Program reimbursement for the zoning task force work over the prior 2 years. We did get reimbursed just this past week, the amount of about $21,300. Honeybrook Borough was the point on this particular grant because the township was the point on the comp plan grant. So everything ran through the borough, and we thank them for taking care of this and getting our money back on a timely basis. Your Act 537 plan was put out for public comment on March 11th. So the 30-day review period is about up. And I expect to see whatever the next step is. Fred will point that out, or our consultant will point that out, and perhaps we'll have something to talk about at the May workshop meeting. But I'm not aware of anything that came in from anyone except for the planning commissions. So we didn't have any other comments. We'll go back to the Supplee Road sidewalk project. Just want to let you know that Technicon's going to have their surveyors out, if they're not already out there, doing the survey work this month. And that'll give Mike the information he needs to put together 2 different options for the board to look at. One is going to be with piping that intermittent stream, so you won't see that in front of the church whatsoever. And the other is going to be without doing that. And the board's going to need then to give Mike and I feedback on how you want to proceed after you see cost estimates, you know, and any pros and cons of each. So we'll get that to you as soon as possible. The township received a letter just this past month from Department of Environmental Protection, letting us know that we may be eligible for an exemption from the rules governing leaf waste collection and recycling. It's interesting that I didn't know and that we were subject to those rules and regulations. The township does not have a program. And I think DEP is just like rolling things out to the smaller and smaller and smaller communities. We probably, I think the threshold is 500 persons per square mile in the community. We're about 501. So we're all the way at the bottom of the barrel that could be considered responsible for this program. We're also in that area of population where we could possibly get an exemption. So I've filled out the necessary information and requested an exemption, and we're just waiting to hear back from that. That's all I have.
Land Preservation Committee? Any good?
We'll be here.
Clark, Rebecca, George, anybody?
In lieu of someone from the Park and Rec Board, I just want to remind everyone, opening day of Twin Valley Little League is this Saturday. I know John is going to attend. And the weather is hopefully going to be much more amenable this year. I believe last year's was either snowed or rained out on the original date. Seeds have been ordered for our raised bed garden. And so that's almost ready to go. We'll be putting out the call for anybody who's interested in helping with that garden very shortly. And registration has begun for half-day summer camp. This is a very popular camp, now in its 5th year. 5 weeks of fun will take place from 9 a.m. to noon on June 18 to 20, 25 to 27. And July 9 to 11, 16 to 18, and 23 to 25. The deadline to register is June 14. The cost is $30 per child per week. It's a great bargain and a lot of fun, and I wish I was in K to 5 so I could go. The Honeybrook Community Cleanup Day is scheduled for Saturday, April 27th from 9 a.m. to noon, and Kevin Wynant from our Park and Rec Board is heading that up. And if anybody's interested in participating, they can contact the office, or you can just show up on that day at 9 a.m. and with a vest, a bag, and some gloves, you can put to work.
Thank you. Planning Commission?
The only thing for planning commission, we have a meeting on April the 25th coming up later this month. There are 2 agenda items as of now. There's a waiver for RPC that the group will be talking about and making a recommendation to the supervisors. And there's also, I believe, a land development submission that came in.
It's a special exception application.
Special exception, I'm sorry.
Right.
Exception application, so that will also be reviewed. That is for a land development project that will be forthcoming after the zoning approvals obtained. So that will be on your agenda. I don't think we've received anything else at this time. So unless any of the planning commission members have anything to add, that's all I have in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Should have informed. Anybody to the right? Anybody to the left?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just wondering if anything was taken care of yet about my previous complaints about noise. Because the last 3 weeks, Monday through Friday, right now it's early in the season, I have had to listen for easily 10 hours out of the day, constant noise. Today was a special day. I don't know what they were doing back there. Dumping boulders, within about an hour span, 5 times. I talked to the neighbors across the street, they felt it. I talked to the neighbors 7 houses down, they felt it.
And another thing is on back of gas line. I like it on road. And the dirt, dust, of my house.
The dust, I have pictures from the
How
dust
do you,
today.
how do you not have water system on it? I can't even bring it up.
I talked to neighbors across the street, they couldn't make it tonight.
It's not noise, it's a health safety issue.
It's the safety.
For the sake of our house,
It's the dust.
exactly.
I'm done. I mean, I'm just completely fed up that nobody is helping us. Nobody.
Well, the township did have Technicon going out there to look at the noise
Now.
in the morning.
You were out there December, the first week of December. How many landscaping businesses are working full-time the first week of December? Can I count them on one hand? Can I count 0?
I
Why don't you come out now?
Well-
When the business is up and, no, why don't you come out now when the business is up and running? Okay? I mean, go watch a baseball game on the field here in January. It ain't gonna happen. There's nobody playing in January.
I tried to have my windows open. It's been a beautiful week.
You
I
can't
just
just
want
put
my windows open.
that up
But now,
I'm
is
sitting down.
the noise that you're talking about not that early hour? Is it during the day?
No, it's constant.
in.
11 o'clock,
I
7 o'clock.
6 o'clock
They
in the
hear it
morning.
down their side. There's something going on
It's
down
in our
their
house.
house. 11 o'clock at night on
I don't
Sunday.
want gas line.
Now, Steve,
I mean, it's, yes,
I observed at 6 o'clock in the morning, gone by, and there's a lot of activity going on.
Oh, there is, and Technicon saw it every morning. But the noise is not above, you know, the background noise level. And it's basically crews going to work. It's not what Mrs. Crowe is explaining here. You know, it's basically people coming, parking their cars, going to their trucks, getting on their cars. And leaving. Well, I'm saying that's not what they're doing here.
I was hard out at times, love the house.
No, that's what I'm saying, that's what
She
you're
was, the house was
doing.
shaking just before the
And now he's during the day.
That's what, what are you trying to, what
Can I ask if we speak one time? I'm trying to follow, I'm trying to follow the discussion.
Put it up.
We need people to speak one at a time.
Well, we've been speaking with the DEP, and when people come out to investigate,
I want you to
property
do.
damage is gone. And nothing's being done by the
Waste
township.
of time.
I'm saying, and I'm.
Just look out with further above you guys.
I look back on my computer from everything I had. I'm thinking it was around 6 years. It's been 8 years that we have sat and listened to backup noise, heavy equipment, the banging, the booming, you name it, we've tolerated it. We've tried to call in complaint, we've tried to come in and complain, and today we have had it. We are over it, we're done. What else do you want me to say? We never agreed to a junkyard being run in our backyard, and I have pictures of that too. We never agreed to have equipment up and down the fence line all day long, sometimes 11 o'clock midnight, when they know they were supposed to cut it off at 10.
Yeah, I know, we recently had conversations with the owner,
Well, obviously, we're not working.
and when I say recently, the end of last month. And we're just trying to get an idea of what's making all the noise back there.
I have pictures and I have video. I've offered to
What-
show
what
them
is-
to you guys.
What is making the noise?
Heavy equipment, front loaders, backhoes, you name it, it's out there. I have video from my porch where you can see.
But I mean, is that what's making the vibration that you're feeling?
Yep. For the most
Why
part.
are they doing
Or
it?
when they bang the tractor trailers together, or when they shut the doors, whatever they're doing on a daily basis back there. Along the fence line right now, there's piles upon piles of piles of brush. So then you get the triaxle dump trucks that are backing up literally to the fence line and dumping it. Then there's days where they just take a front loader and push it over and pull back, and push it over and pull back for hours on end. Then there's other days where I have video of them picking up pallets with the front loader where they put the little happy little tongs on it and
Yeah, I've seen
dumping
the
it in the
balance
dumpster.
on
big boom where my house is shaking. That's for a couple of hours. You get the scraping where they pull the dump trucks up back to the fence line, where they just continually scrape with the shovel. I have also had video of me trying to sit and have dinner with my family, and I can't have my windows open because of the noise. This is 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. It's just constant. I should not have to live this way. They are running a junkyard, not a landscape company. I have pictures of dumpsters filled with meth. Right next to the dumpsters or right behind the dumpsters are big barrels, like waste barrels. If Technicon was out, Technicon absolutely would have seen it.
Well, I was out with somebody from Technicon.
Did you see it? They didn't look too hard if you didn't, because it's there and it's been there for a couple months.
Well, I know that there's a lot of material they bring back from jobs. Some of it they store on site that they intend to get rid of. They take it to the local fire company's mud sale, and they get rid of a lot of that stuff. That's the one part of the property. I did see the piles of pallets out there that I believe they end up taking to their other site over in West Nanville and grinding up. Because that's where all the grinding takes place in West Nanville.
The tires, I forgot about the tires too.
Tires.
Tires. I have pictures of that too.
And I don't know if I recall seeing tires or not seeing tires, but yeah, we went through the site and saw a lot of stuff back there, but obviously.
So it's a junkyard.
No, it's the business that he's in. I mean, there's lots of piles of mulch, there's, everything to do with erosion control. He does ENS control.
What's that have to do with piles upon piles of junk that I have to listen to the equipment all day long?
And the piles of junk that I saw, it looks like they came and placed it there, and there's nobody back there doing anything with it. So maybe you're seeing something different. I mean,
I have a video right now, would you like to hear the noise?
well, I'd like to see what you're talking about.
I've wanted to show you, now you're interested. I've been wanting to show you for years the video that I have, and you haven't been interested.
I don't know if that's accurate.
That's very accurate.
Okay.
This part of it may not be too bad. I don't want to be for that thing, you can hear everything. Because they're just idling right now, they're not lifting. Is anybody listening, or are you guys just talking?
No, we've heard you.
Yeah, we are trying to talk about what's been done so far and.
Nothing.
Well,
And even if you say it was done on your end, he's not listening at all. Now also, I was in a couple of weeks ago to look through the files of this particular business. And nothing on there has anything for piles of debris, piles of rubbish, piles of junk. There's nothing in the plans. Also, everything, I guess, there's nothing in there, even a letter from Technicon that talks about the complaints towards the business, except two. And those complaints, I think, were only within the last couple of months. There's nothing else in there of anything.
Yeah, I think that the only thing that was approved is just a generic statement of storage. There wasn't individual items. I think what we should do, like I said, we had conversations and we're gonna have more conversations with the owner, is get together with the solicitor and back out and take a look at some of these things. And if you can come in sometime and show me that video so I can try to find out what's making the noise.
I have a big boom.
Because when Technicon and I were out there, we could not even imagine anything that could make noise. But of course, you know, most of the employees had already gotten out and gone for the day. We were there at 10 o'clock in the morning, there was virtually nobody on site. They had all gone to their job site somewhere.
But you make a good point that a landscaping business is more busy right now at this time of the year. As well, make points here.
Yeah, and it's been absolutely ramped up the last 3 weeks.
Sure.
Absolutely ramped
Oh,
up.
I'm sure, yes.
There's a picture of the dust. The dust, the last several days, has been horrendous. All that's coming into my house. Pallets, all the debris that's laying around. I have it all. Here's the dumpster with all the metal in it. All these videos, I mean, I have 8 years of videos from the noise that they're making. We're done. And the girl that got so mad she left, she was right there with me today when they were going at it. And the majority of the videos I have are from my back porch. To pick up that much noise at my back porch of heavy equipment. And again, I told you guys several times, the humming in my house of stuff is just, is ridiculous. I have barrels, I have no idea what was ever in these barrels. Why are they stored?
Wish you could share that information with us, right?
Oh, yeah, she could just come in and we could take a look at it.
They've been there for months. If you guys were really looking, or Technicon was really looking, they absolutely would have seen that part.
But having barrels isn't necessarily any violation.
You're correct, if you know what's in the barrels.
You know, so
Who knows what's in the barrels?
it's
So
like
it's everything all together. Everything.
Right.
And we're not living like that. As taxpayers, they can't even enjoy, we want to buy a little fire pit. Why bother? It's a waste of money because I can't even sit in my own backyard and enjoy a nice spring evening.
And you say they're operating up till like 10 o'clock?
Oh, well, I guess they're allowed, so that's the good excuse.
No, I'm saying, is that what you're telling us? Is
Oh,
that-
yeah. Oh, yeah, I mean,
Because
right
it was
now,
my
it's not
understanding,
it's-
their shift, their second shift, if you want to call it, ends before that.
It's been kind of cutting off the last couple of weeks. But I can tell you, within 2-3 weeks, they absolutely will run at least till 10 o'clock.
Because it was my understanding that their, like I said, quote unquote second shift ends at 8 o'clock. So there shouldn't be
That's what it
much
is.
noise after that.
Oh, there's a lot.
Okay.
Maybe not yet for this season, but I have video from last year, 9:30, 10 o'clock, I got video.
Well, we'll follow up and have some discussions here with the board and the solicitor. And we'll follow up with the owner.
And how.
So I said, you have,
Again,
please
because
bring me this to look at.
You've told me several times you guys have talked to the owner, and still, it's either he doesn't care or he's not listening.
Well, can you show me what you have?
I've offered to do that, and absolutely. I'm gonna step outside because I'm just too angry for me to finish sitting here with the meeting, but I'll wait for you to get off.
Well, I'm gonna be.
Or for the meeting to be done. I'll wait.
It could take quite a while. Why don't you stop in sometime during the day?
I'd rather do it tonight.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to the next. Anybody else before we left? Public hearing?
Good evening. This is the place and time designated by notice to consider the application of Mobile, Mobility 3 LLC to expand an existing mobile home park use from 41 units to 113 units on property located at 2222 Horseshoe Pike, also sometimes known as 2232 Horseshoe Pike, including tax parcel numbers 22-8-75-E and -81 and -81.1 and -89 and -90, all in Honeybrook Township, pursuant to section 802.3.A of the Honeybrook Township zoning ordinance of 2003 as amended, previously codified as chapter 27 of the Honeybrook Township Code of Ordinances, and pursuant to the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. Note that the township enacted a new zoning ordinance in October 2018, but this application was submitted prior to such enactment and is therefore being considered under the prior version of the ordinance. The applicant submitted its application on September 12, 2018, and has granted to the board time extensions through today's date for the board to commence the first hearing on the application. Before proceeding any further, I want to ask if there is anyone present who wishes to be recognized as a party to this proceeding. Party status will give you the right to call witnesses and to appeal the decision of the Board of Supervisors. I see Mr. Edelman is here, perhaps at this time you want to enter an appearance.
Sure. Good evening, Greg Allen here on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you. Is there someone in the audience that's sworn in? Yes, sir. Can you identify yourself?
I am Daniel Lambert.
Can you spell your last name?
Lambert.
Are you a resident of the township?
I am.
And what is your address?
469 Oakdale Road.
And how close is your property to the property which is the subject of the application?
We'll touch it.
You're
We
touching it?
are joining.
Okay, very good. Mr. Edelman, is there any objection to Mr. Lambert being recognized as a party due to his property being apparently an adjoiner?
If I could have Mr. Lambert just approach and just generally show me where his property is located. It's a historical area, doesn't matter whichever one you want. Let the record reflect Mr. Lambert pointed to the property located directly across the creek. And on that basis, I have no objection to he joins our property.
Thank you. Is there any other person present here tonight who wishes to be recognized as a party? Yes, sir. Can you state your name?
Brad Marshman.
Can you please spell your last name?
Marshman.
And where do you live?
2280 Horseshoe Pike.
Is that location in Honeybrook Township?
Yes, joining the property.
Is it adjoining property?
Yes.
Mr. Edelman, do you have any objection to Mr. Marshman being recognized as a party?
Good evening, Mr. Marshman. It's nice to see you again. If you could just please refresh my recollection as to where your property is located, if you could just point it on the map. Just come on up. There's an area right here. It's the one out front.
Yeah.
No, I don't have any objection.
Is there any other person present here tonight who wishes to be recognized as a party by the board? I see no indication of that. So Mr. Lambert, Mr. Marshman, I'm going to be asking you throughout the course of this proceeding if you have questions for witnesses during or as we go through sequentially the witnesses of the applicant. After the applicant completes his case, you'll have the opportunity to present testimony if you wish to do that. And I'm going to tell you now, and I'll probably say this again later, that if you have questions for the applicant's witnesses, please don't use that time to provide your own testimony. Limit yourself to questions of the applicant's witnesses. You will have your opportunity to present testimony after the applicant completes the presentation of his case. Do you have any questions about that up to this point? No? Okay. Further, I want to indicate that anyone who seeks to offer evidence regarding this matter will be required to come forward and to be sworn or to affirm their testimony before the Board of Supervisors. Further, public notice of this hearing was duly advertised in the Daily Local News on March 26, 2019 and April 2nd, 2019. Adjoining property owners were notified by mail of this hearing on March 27, 2019. This hearing and any appeals of the decision that may be rendered by the Board of Supervisors will be governed by the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. The supervisors have 45 days after the last hearing on this matter to render their decision. The zoning ordinance in effect at the time of the application will be considered part of the record, but I'm not going to have that specifically marked tonight. But I do have a number of exhibits that the board is offering which have been marked in advance, and they are as follows. Exhibit number 1 is a copy of the application that was submitted to Brook Township for tonight's hearing. Exhibit number 2 is a collection of letters from Mr. Edelman to the township extending the time for the occurrence of this hearing. Those letters are dated as follows: October 11, 2018, November 9, 2018, December 6, 2018, January 17, 2019, and February 12, 2019. All those letters together have been marked as Township Exhibit 2. In addition, marked as Township Exhibit 3 is a copy of the notice for tonight's hearing. What's been marked as Township Exhibit 4 is a copy of the correspondence with the newspaper regarding the publication of the notice on March 26 and April 2nd, 2019. What's been marked as Township Exhibit 5 is an affidavit of the mailing of notices to the persons who were required to receive mail notice of tonight's hearing. I do see Mr. Marshman's name on this list, and I also see Mr. Lambert's name on this list. What's been marked as Township Exhibit 6 is a letter from Technicon Enterprises Township Engineer and Zoning Officer addressed to the Brook Township Planning Commission dated September 20, 2018. What's been marked as Township Exhibit 7 is a letter from Technicon Enterprises to the Township Planning Commission dated February 22, 2019. What's been marked as Township Exhibit 8 is a letter from Technicon Enterprises to me regarding the recommendations of the Township Planning Commission from the Planning Commission's meeting of March 28, 2019. Is there any objection to these exhibits that I've just described being entered into the record for this hearing?
I have no objection.
Mr. Marshman, do you have any objection?
No.
Mr. Lambert, do you have any objection?
No, sir.
All right, thank you very much. At this point, we've concluded the preliminary steps for the hearing to get underway, and I'm going to call upon Mr. Edelman to present his case. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening again. My name is Greg Edelman. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. We've been before this board in prior meetings on different occasions, in particular, most recently dealing with the zoning variances related to the property. The proposal here this evening is a redevelopment and expansion of the existing mobile home park located at the property. I believe the current address is now 2232. They've been revised from 2222 proposal is to take the existing mobile home park and expand it to a total of 113 units on the property. The property will continue to be owned and maintained by one individual, the landowner at this current time, and individuals will then be buying their own units and then bringing them onto the property and renting the space based upon the terms of their leases. We're here this evening for a conditional use in order to permit the mobile home park on the property. Conditional use has specific criteria under your zoning ordinance and general criteria under your zoning ordinance. As part of our application, we submitted an overall site plan demonstrating compliance with the specific criteria. We also have supplemented that, and we will do so this evening with additional exhibits to demonstrate compliance with that criteria. I have proposed to call 3 witnesses this evening. Mr. Tim Brennan, our project engineer, Mark Gallagher, our ecologist, and Herb Fisher, the principal of the applicant and owner of the property. I don't know if you'd like them all to be sworn at this time. If that's easier, I'm more than happy to have them all be sworn.
Why don't we have them all sworn at once?
Sure.
Swear the testimony you're about to give, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
And let the record reflect, I've handed out some exhibits, they're not in order because there'll be plans that will also be labeled, but I've handed out what I marked as exhibits A1, which is a copy of Mr. Brennan's resume, curriculum vitae, A6, which is a copy of the zoning hearing board solicitor's March 19, 2019 letter confirming the grant of the variances requested for the property. I marked A7, which I now know is a duplicate of the township's Exhibit 7 as well, which is a copy of Technicon's February 22nd, 2019 review letter with respect to this application. And I've also handed out what I've marked as Exhibit A8, which is a copy of the deed to the property, which also contains on the last page what is called a track plotter, which takes the legal description and creates an outbound survey that closes. We'll be talking about that in a little bit of detail in the presentation. And what I marked as Exhibit A9 is a copy of Mr. Gallagher's resume and curriculum vitae. We do have plans that we have on the boards here, as well as I believe we supplied a thumb drive, so we'll also be able to display them on the overhead projector as well. And if there's no questions from the board on preliminary matters, I'd like to move on to the first one.
Please proceed.
Thank you. I'd like to call Tim Brennan to testify at this time. Tim, over here on the right, sitting in the chair, quite comfortably. The record, the board will take notice of Mr. Brennan's resume, marked as Exhibit A1. I also know him as an expert in civil engineering, site planning, and design based upon his professional engineering registration in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and based on his experience. I'm happy to have him answer any questions you might have with respect to his qualifications, but I guess he accepted as an expert.
Can you repeat what areas of expertise you gave you?
Civil engineering, site planning, and design.
Do you have a copy of the resume?
It's right in front of you. I'm sorry. That's what you were talking about. That's not fast.
Based on the gentleman's resume, I would recommend to the board that he be accepted as a expert witness on civil engineering, site planning, and design. But before we take that step, I want to ask the two gentlemen who are now parties, Mr. Lambert, Mr. Washington, do you have any questions about the qualifications of Mr. Brennan? And do you want to look at his resume before the board decides whether he's an expert witness on civil engineering, site planning, and design?
I don't.
Not.
So if the gentleman has no objections, I recommend you decide recognized by the board. Is that agreeable to the board?
Very.
Okay, the board agrees that Mr. Brennan is an expert as requested by Ms. Phelan. Please proceed.
Great, thank you, Mr. Brennan, the project engineer for the expansion and redevelopment of the mobile home park. Yes, I am. Okay, and I've marked on the board here as Exhibit A2, if we could go to the historical area. So, Tim, could you please provide some background on the history of the property, its prior use and current use, as well as its location?
Sure, in the upper left-hand corner, you can see back in 1937, it was used for agricultural purposes. Jumping to 1971, you can see that that's the first aerial where the existing mobile home park actually shows up. It was built, I believe, back in the late 50s and early 60s. 1992, you can see that the area that was used for agriculture on the west, southwestern portion of the property, or the northwestern portion of the property. It's starting to get overgrown, and again, jumping to 2018, you can see where the existing mobile home park is now.
If we can go to the next slide. Which I've marked as Exhibit A3. Could you identify this aerial for the board, please?
This aerial shows the existing project. This one, or
This was marked 83 inches.
sorry, sorry.
I was just going by the numbers.
We do have another aerial that shows
Is it site plan record?
No.
the last one, the aerial content. Sorry. This is to give you an idea of what the current uses are along Ocean Pike 322 and the project area outlined in yellow. As you can see, the heavy dashed white line indicates the zoning boundary between commercial and mixed residential. You do have a combination of commercial that does exist on both sides, north and south of the property along 322. And as you can see with numbers 7 and 10 are the existing mobile home parks that are out there right now. And then in our own project area, you'll see the current mobile home park that's up towards Horseshoe Pike.
And Tim, what is located at the, I guess, rear or bottom of the Exhibit A3 on our property?
Two things. You've got the former Consolidated Rail Corporation, and then you also have the bus branch, the Brandywine Creek, that is in the extreme lower portion of the property.
And how does the current mobile home park take access to 322?
Currently off of one existing driveway.
Would you just point that out on your plan that's next to you?
Sure. Right up there.
And approximately how many units are there currently or capable of being there currently?
There's currently 41 units there right now. Approved for 41. As far as the number that are there right now, I'm not quite sure if it's that achieved.
Tim, I've put up another board that I've marked as Exhibit A4. Could you please identify for the record?
This is our overall rendering for the project.
The plan for the conditional use application, is that correct?
Correct.
And what conditional use relief is being sought here this evening?
Expanding use for the property.
And could you please give an overview of the specifics of what's being proposed to develop well as its zoning compliance with respect to the specific requirement for the home.
Well, currently, we're looking at putting in 113 new units, so the existing would be totally removed and we decided to reconstruct it. We have, what we're showing here is we would use an existing driveway. This is the southernmost portion of the project, the property. And then we would also be introducing another driveway up on the northern side as well. You can see that the development really hugs the the front of the property, and then as you go towards the back of the property, towards the creek, we're really hugging the north side of the property, because most of the natural resources are on the southwest corner.
And what proposed improvements are being constructed?
Proposed improvements besides the units, we've got the driveways, the roadways that will be running for the entire development. We've got the right-of-ways, 20-foot walkways. We've got sidewalks throughout. In addition to that comes the stormwater management. We'll have a complete stormwater drainage system. With that comes inlets throughout the park, capturing the runoff. That'll be collecting the storm drainage system, between pipes that will be connecting to a number of stormwater management features that are shown around the perimeter of the development before it then goes into the existing forest area that will be maintained. And you can see those basins around the perimeter, so green color here.
And in those bases, they're preliminary design, is that correct?
They're preliminary. We estimate the size of them based on a conceptual analysis.
And when would they be further engineered and designed?
Early during land development, we'll be getting to the overall calculations and detail rating.
And what governmental agencies or units would have to review those stormwater designs?
The township and the conservation district.
Is there landscaping proposed to be planted as part of the overall site improvements?
Yes.
Where will that landscaping be located generally?
You see that around the perimeter in between the units. We've got close to 500 big trees, plantings that will be going in that are scattered throughout the entire property. And meets the outside buffer requirements and also in between the units as well.
And is there also a proposed plan to enhance the forested area?
There is.
Okay, and will Mr. Dowd be testifying to that?
Yes.
Going to the specific criteria of the zoning regulations, could you please summarize? I think they're all shown on the table on A4, is that correct?
That's correct.
And if you could hit the high points in terms of overall coverage, impervious coverage, et cetera, for the record, please.
Sure. As far as the gross tract area, we've got 16.45 acres. The proposed units, again, 113 units, the maximum density is 139 units. So again, maximum is 139, we're putting in 113. 4 mobile homes per acre is the maximum allowed. The proposed parking is 38 spaces. We are providing that's 1 space for every 3 units. As far as the minimum lot area, 6,000 square feet per mobile home, which we're providing. Minimum lot width is 50 feet, which we're proposing. Minimum yard setback is 25 feet, which we will be meeting or exceeding. The minimum individual side yard setback will be required is 5 feet. You're meeting or exceeding that. The minimum aggregate side yard setback is 30 feet. We are meeting or exceeding that. The minimum distance between any 2 homes, 30 feet is required for meeting or exceeding that. The minimum setback from external track boundary is 50 feet, and we are meeting or exceeding that as well. And the minimum setback from the right of way is 25 feet, we're meeting or exceeding that. The minimum common open space is 30%. Based on the gross tract area, we are at 35.4%. And the maximum tract impervious, 40% is the maximum, and we're currently at 24%.
Let's go back to the parking for a moment, please. What's the parking requirement again?
It's one space for 3 units.
Okay, and how is that being provided here on the site?
We have it shown back in this, the lower circle here on the western side, and then we also have parking up towards Bush Pike here. And then we also have parking for 2 vehicles for our unit.
Will there also be trash receptacles placed throughout the site?
Yes, there will be. We've got 4 shown currently. One in the bottom portion, another one right here, another one right above the storm action basin, and then one more way up here in this main driveway.
Could more be added during land development if necessary?
Yes.
Did this plan need any zoning variances in order to proceed forward prior to conditional use?
Yes.
What zoning variances did it require?
We needed relief for steep slope, and we needed that for cautionary slopes and prohibitive slopes.
And did the applicant proceed before the zoning hearing board to obtain those variances?
Yes.
All right, and I put on the table over there next to you what I marked as exhibit A6, if you could just pull that out for a second. And that's the March 19th, 2019 letter from the zoning hearing solicitor, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, does this confirm the variances that the applicant sought as having been granted by the zoning hearing board?
Yes, it does.
And what section under the zoning ordinance is this application required to comply with respect to the specific criteria for mobile home park?
27, 802.3A.
And what's the specific criteria for the use of a mobile home park?
That's the 27-1604.1.
And is Nancy?
Yes.
And are you familiar with that section and its requirements?
Yes, I am.
And can you give me an opinion, or do you have an opinion as to whether this plan complies with all those requirements?
Yeah, because they're mainly the technical requirements that I just went over, which we need to exceed.
And are there also general criteria under the ordinance that are required to be satisfied as part of this application?
Yes, under 27, 19, 10, 14.
And have you reviewed those requirements?
Yes, I have.
And do you have an opinion as to whether this application complies with those general requirements?
It does.
Has the township engineer reviewed this application?
Yes, I have.
And I'd like to show you in my packet here that on the table we've marked as Exhibit A7, the same as Township Exhibit 7. It's a copy of Technicon's February 22nd, 2019 review letter. Have you seen this review letter before?
Yes, I have.
And does this review letter provide comments with respect to, I guess, both the zoning application and the conditional use application?
Yes, it does.
And are there any comments in here that the applicant cannot or has not satisfied?
No.
And looking at it, consists of 4.5 pages, is that correct?
That's correct.
Are there any issues in here that require further explanation from the applicant?
Not at this time.
And some of the requirements in here were already been met as a result of the variances, isn't that correct? That's correct. There was one of the comments in the review letter pertaining to the railroad right away, is that correct?
That's correct.
Let me see if I can find that number. number 2 on page 2, correct? And could you please again point out on exhibit A4 where that railroad right-of-way, the former railroad right-of-way is located? And by right here, you're pointing to the
right. Can you
Western,
do it there?
western part of the property, which runs parallel to the creek.
And then a gentleman asked if you could go up to the overview of that location as well, so.
Right here.
And I've marked this exhibit A8. It's a copy of the applicant's deed to the property, is that correct? That's correct. And if we turn to the second page, on the right-hand side, there's some handwritten notes titled Railroad Bed, is that correct?
That's correct.
And how did you receive a copy of this deed?
The title company.
Okay. And on the on the last page of exhibit A8, you can turn to that, please. It says, welcome to tract plotter, is that correct?
Correct.
And then there's the same handwriting again as well, correct? And at the lower portion is the railroad indicated as being within the out boundary of the property?
Yes.
And it's highlighted there out.
It is ready railroad.
So, based upon the survey that was supplied to you and relied upon by you, is this railroad right-of-way located within the applicant's property?
It is.
And it is owned by the applicant based on those documents, is that correct?
Correct.
And just to summarize again, do you have an opinion as to whether this application complies with the specific and general criteria for the mobile home park?
It does.
I have no further questions for Mr. Brown.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions I'd like to go over. The plan commission made a recommendation to the board of supervisors. Were you at the plan commission meeting?
Yes, I was.
So you're familiar with those recommendations? And was one of those recommendations that the applicant discussed with the school district transportation office plans for bus loading, unloading, and provide sufficient sidewalks, loading areas, pull-offs, et cetera, as necessary? Are you aware that that was one of the planning commission recommendations?
Yes.
And do you know, does your plan have a position with regard to complying with that recommendation? Would the realty be willing to discuss with the school district, transportation office, those subjects?
Yes, absolutely.
And would there be no objection to the board of supervisors including that recommendation from the planning commission as a condition in the zoning hearing board decision? Or the conditional use decision if one is granted?
No objection from the applicant.
Similarly, there was a recommendation from the planning commission that the applicant provide active recreational opportunities such as top lot and multi-sport court in addition to the proposed massive trails throughout the woodland. Are you aware of that recommendation from the planning commission?
Yes, I am.
And does Mobile Free Realty have a position with regard to that recommendation? Would they be willing to accommodate that?
Yes, we'd be willing to accommodate that.
And Mr. Hartman, if I may, Tim, if you could just point out some of the areas that were discussed at the planning commission where such tot lots may be possible on the property where the applicant would be willing to explore that.
Currently, we do have space up in this corner. That currently is just green space right here. That will be a nice location for the top lot. We also have some area down here where we might be able to put something in as well. So we do have space and we can work.
And the area at the, I guess it's the north of the property where it's open, why wouldn't it be possible to put it in that location near the entrance?
Because you have the petroleum pipeline and that discard right there.
All right, there's an easy there.
North and property.
Thank you.
Mr. Raymond, I guess I'll ask you,
Sure.
would your client have no objection to the Board of Supervisors including as a condition in any conditional use decision that requirement that the applicant provide active recreational opportunities such as a top and multi-sport court in addition to the proposed passive trails to the wood?
No objection.
Thank you. Mr. Brennan, there was a third recommendation from the Planning Commission that the applicant construct a minimum of 4 trash collection areas and ensure that trash collection is conducted at appropriate intervals to prevent overperforming conditions at the collection locations. I believe your testimony was that the plan already provides for 4 trash collection areas, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you agree that what I read was a recommendation of the Planning Commission?
Yes.
And Mr. Aylward, would the applicant have any objection to the Board of Supervisors making a condition of the approval of a conditional use application that condition about 4 trash collection areas and ensuring that trash collection is conducted at appropriate intervals to prevent overflowing conditions at the collection locations be included as a condition in the decision?
No objection.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
There was also discussion by the Board of Supervisors that I think you heard at prior meetings that you attended here about an interest that the township has to have a trail system utilizing the old railroad deck that Mr. Brennan showed us on the plans that have been described. Mr. Brennan, are you familiar with the township's request that the township have an easement or whatever title may be necessary in order to receive funding for a trail project within the bed of the old railroad? Are you familiar with that request by the township?
Yes, I am.
And does your client have a position regarding that request?
The applicant owner has no objection to being able to provide the necessary rights of way for a trail system along that location.
Okay, Mr. Abrams, would there be any objection to the Board of Supervisors including as a condition of a conditional use approval that that easement for whatever title may be needed for funding be provided for access to that corridor?
There's no objection to provide any easement that would be given wouldn't be netted out from the liability calculation.
That's understood, and my recommendation to the board would be that there would be no netting out of that area for purposes of calculating areas.
Thank you.
I also wanted to ask you, Mr. Brennan, about the 113 units is what is proposed. You described a maximum density allowed of 139. Is it your understanding that if the board approves the application for 113 units, that there is no privilege for the developer to exceed that number without receiving new zoning approval, including any variances that might be necessary to achieve a number in excess of 113?
That's correct.
Mr. Abrams, do you also agree with that?
Yes, I did.
And also, I just want to be clear that since the project has not gone through a land development planning process yet, we don't know exactly how the stormwater planning will play out, any other improvement issues required by the planning process. And it is possible that there could be some design issue that will come up during the land development planning process that could result in an inability to actually obtain 113 units without some new zoning relief being required. Do you understand my question? I guess what I'm getting at is, do you acknowledge that due to the land development planning process, there is no guarantee of the 113 units until you're able to successfully complete that process and prove that all of the objective standards of the ordinance are actually met at the conclusion of that land development planning process?
That's correct, that's understood.
We don't believe it's likely, but.
Well, I know there's been a thorough effort
There has.
to do a great deal of groundwork, but I just want to be clear that if we have a conditional use decision that indicates 113 units, it is still subject to completion of the land development planning process, whatever the consequences of that might be.
That's right.
That's what I wanted to cover, and now I want to turn to the board, and I apologize for taking this much time, but I wanted to make sure my concerns were addressed first. Does the board of supervisors have any questions for Mr. Brennan?
Is going to be phased approach, or is it something where you're going to come in and just level the whole area and then just put in all the concrete pads and all that? How's that going to work out?
The current plan at this time is to do the site all at once, to put in all the site improvements and create the pads. Since it's basically a rental community, in essence, if you're going to compare it to something, it would be done all at once, all the improvements come in, all the landscaping comes in, all the stormwater comes in, etc. So that would be done all at once. I wouldn't call it leveling, but obviously clearing and site service.
If you're adjacent to the property where you heard earlier, where I was complaining about noises, also with the current residents and what would happen with them.
Mr. Fisher could testify to that in more detail when he's called. I'd rather have him answer that because he has a set procedure on how to deal with that type of situation.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, I want to talk, or I want to call upon our other parties who are participants in tonight's hearing. First, Mr. Lambert, you have been here for testimony of Mr. Brennan. Do you have any questions at this time for Mr. Brennan about the testimony that he's provided to the board of supervisors?
I do. I have questions about the site plan if that need be.
Okay, this would be your opportunity to ask questions of Mr. Brennan about his testimony.
Your catch basins and the water, will they have overflow plates in that basins, or are you going to keep the water on your property?
All the water will be kept on our, it will be collected on our property, and it will be stored on our property for the requirements of the state, the township. We release that rate according to the regulations.
On your property?
On our property.
Okay. Where's the sewage pump station going to be for that whole lower unit?
That's land development.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that any of us.
We'll be getting to that.
Okay.
Yeah, can you just confirm there's been no design of
Okay.
the sewage?
No utilities have been designed yet at this point.
Okay. So, me asking, the economics would be the same. Why not put in 52 double wides instead of all those single wides? Lot rent.
Well, this is maybe not a question for the engineer. Mr. Fisher, I think, is going to be available, I think, on economics. Will Mr. Fisher be available to answer this question?
Yes.
Okay. Are you willing to wait until Mr. Fisher's in the witness seat?
I'll be here for every meeting you have concerning this one.
Okay.
That will become a boomer.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lambert. Do you have any other questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Marshman, this is your opportunity. If you have any questions for Mr. Brennan about his testimony.
I really don't have no questions. I'd just like to make a statement, go to a day, go to work tomorrow.
Okay. All right, well,
I don't have any objection if he wants to make a statement this time.
I don't oppose this at all.
well, can you allow me to be sworn? Because I want your testimony to be part of the record.
Yeah. And I understand Mr. Marshman, you're working, so please go ahead and get your statement out.
All right, Mr. Marshman, would you allow yourself to be sworn by the stenographer?
Sure, whatever that means.
Put your hand, please. Do you swear that testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes. My only concern is the road. We don't have to widen the road. I'm not opposed to this, as long as you respect me as my man there, my neighbor, and understand I'm not to do all this construction and all this happy stuff going on. But hey, can't beat City Hall, so, you know what I mean? We'll do what we can. So it looks fine the way it is, I guess. My main concern was the road going down on the highway. Right, but we already got a lot of traffic coming in now from my side of my property.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
We already got a lot of traffic coming in on the west side of my property, going up back to the Earth Care. We got a problem. And problem is going out in the morning. Sometimes they miss the driveway, they don't see it, but there is a lot of traffic going in and out in the morning and in the afternoon. You don't need to visit that. Now you're gonna have another over here on this side with traffic going in and out. And I don't know what the state is going to block the road or.
That's to be determined.
So I'm right now.
Everything was constructed according to permit. And get a permit, you have to meet all the requirements.
Oh, good.
That includes geometry and stormwater.
Yeah, it is what it is. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Everyone, question.
Mr. Lambert, you have
Just one quick. Do you have a FEMA floodplain map to overlay on that?
Not on us.
Okay, you want to see one? It's already doing good, but, okay. Will that be discussed at a future meeting?
When we get a lot.
Okay, thank you. And we'll take care of that. Thank you.
Thank you. This time I'd like to call Mark Gallagher to testify. And while Mark's coming up, I handed out a copy of his resume. I marked it as Exhibit A9. And I'd asked the board to take notice of Mr. Gallagher's expert qualifications and his many years of experience, and asked that he be qualified, recognized as an expert in wetland and terrestrial ecology. Correct. Thank you.
Mr. Lambert, have you seen a copy of the resume?
I have, but I have no objections. I saw it last time we were here.
You don't have an objection?
No, not at all.
Qualifications for wetlands and terrestrial ecology?
No, I'm fine.
I would recommend to the board that Mr. Gallagher be recognized as an expert in wetlands and terrestrial ecology. Is that agreeable to the board?
Yes.
So be it.
Thank you. Tim, I'm going to ask if you can come over to the computer. Since Chris will step away. Yeah, if you could, so you can pull up his PowerPoint presentation. Mark, while Tim's looking for you, can you just briefly tell the board what your role was here on this project and what you analyzed and for what purpose?
Sure. You were initially retained to delineate the wetlands on the property, and just through the process of discussing the site with regard to wetlands, we're asked to look at ways to satisfy the township's ordinance with regard to mitigating tree removal. So we're looking for ways to compensate for the forest impact associated with the footprint of the development. So that's our initial involvement.
And what did you do?
So what we came up with as a way to compensate is to look at being better stewards of the older growth forest that Tim pointed out.
You're looking at the aerials, is it A2?
mentioned before, in the older 1937 photograph, the whole area in the southeastern part of the site was already forested. And you can still see that now that area still has the oldest trees and the most desirable canopy that's present on the site. So it provided a good base in which to do a stewardship plan, because there already was a good foundation to start. But what happens in a lot of these sites, especially in southern Pennsylvania, it really is the impacts of invasive species and deer that really made at least parts of the forest less desirable, less species rich for habitat. So our plan really is to eliminate the herbivory of deer and their influence on the plant community, and to incorporate invasive species management plan for this whole section of the southeast part of the site.
And let me just identify what I marked as Exhibit A10. It's entitled Forest Enhancement Plan. And Mark, if you could just give some overview. I know the board has heard this before because we were here before for zoning, but for the people who are in the public that have it, if you could go over it.
And the area we're talking about will be about 4,000 linear feet of deer fence, which would be about 10 feet high, usually with posts and metal fence. And there would be gates for access, so as you mentioned previously, access for trails, so we would have that opportunity. But the goal is once we can keep the deer around, minimize the herbivory, and remove some of the invasive species, we will eventually, at least over time, have more species-rich forest. And on top of that, once we have the fence up and start the invasive species management plan, then we would supplement the plantings with about 1,900 trees and shrubs.
And Mark, has something similar to this been done in the past? I mean, have you been involved in these types of stewardship programs before?
Yes, and
do you have a PowerPoint presentation? Tim, if we have that, we can enter this exhibit A11. If you could just walk us through it very quickly. I'm not sure the board's seen this, so it might be beneficial, and certainly beneficial to anyone in the audience to know the concepts that Mark you're talking about. Okay, if you could go ahead, please.
Next slide. So this is a photograph of part of the property. Can everyone see this, or is it right now? So the understory of this forest is dominated primarily by invasive species like bush honeysuckle, with euonymus, Oriental bittersweet, multifloral rose. So although it looks what we expect the forest to look like, pretty much all the lower growth are invasive species in this photograph. The same here, the really dense, spiny looking plant on the right, that's all Oriental bittersweet. And one of the problems with that plant is it will eventually get into the canopies of the trees, like you can see here. So if the light was there, all the little orange spots, that's the fruit of the bittersweet, and that's up in the top of the canopy. Again, another view of how common or dominant the invasive plants are. Pretty much all plants you see in this photograph are multifloral rose. Now, this is one of the parts of the forest that's in good shape. This is why we think it lends itself to a stewardship plan, because there's a good foundation for guiding this forest in the future. But one of the other things you'll notice is there's very few plants in the understory. So what happens in a lot of these forests where deer really have manipulated the plant community, you don't see a lot of native species. And where you have a lot of shrubs in the understory, they tend to be non-native. So this is just one of the examples of an area that's been fenced to keep the deer from eating the vegetation within the fence. So a lot of examples of fence sites, throughout the region, you have this look. not much vegetation, smaller vegetation outside the fence, and a lot more growth inside. This is a photograph of Bowman's Hill Wildflower Preserve, and they've had their area fenced for 27 years. They were one of the first groups to fence property in the area. So to the right is where the deer have out, and to the left is where the deer have access. Again, you have this very park-like forest, and this area isn't maintained. This is the deer just keeping the vegetation down and not allowing the shrubs to get established. This is an area within the fence. Now you have a community with populations of native herbaceous plants and native shrubs. So it starts to have a very different look. And for me, this is the forest I grew up with. That there were plants that you can go, especially this time of year, you see spring wildflowers, and those sites that are really heavily impacted by deer, you don't see those same planting areas. Just another view, and you see here, there's a shrub layer, and then above it, there's a subcanopy layer where you get species like redbud and flowering dogwood and shadbush. The same here. This is a floodplain along with Bowman's Hill. It's got a very rich herbaceous layer of native species. And these are the species immediately outside the fence. This is the kind of junk food for deer. These are the species that they target and they tend to eliminate entire populations. Again, just another view of what deer exposure can do and allow a forest to develop into given time. And just another view of the floodplain. And these are just some of the species that are common inside the fence, not so much outside. This is a mayapple. It's a common spring ephemeral plant. Dutchman's breeches, and whatever. So what our goal here is to give that forest an opportunity to develop along this path. And our primary target is establishing a native shrub layer and a native subcanopy layer, and filling in some of the more open areas with other species of tree that don't currently exist on the site, but which are all native to Southeast Pennsylvania.
And Mark, would this plan be further refined during land development with the township's collaboration?
And input, absolutely.
And would the landowner here be the steward, so to speak, of the enclosed fence area?
Yes, it would.
I have no further questions for Mr. Gallagher.
Just one question I have, Mr. Gallagher, is there a perpetual maintenance requirement in order to preserve the benefits that your plan provides?
Yes. Well, until such time that we actually have the deer or under control. That might take longer.
So Mark, following Mr. Harmon's question, the fence would then have to be perpetually maintained on the property, correct?
That's correct.
I don't have any other questions for Mr. Gallagher. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Gallagher?
I do. You have those two little squares there. What is that supposed to indicate? Is that where the fence is, or around the whole area?
What our proposal is to fence the entire area, but target the plantings on those three areas. And we had input earlier in our process, it was just limited to 3 spots fence, but we actually prefer to fencing all of it.
Mark, what are those areas, just to give some more background?
The 3 areas?
Yes.
There's 3 areas that we believe have the highest, the biggest issues with invasive species. To target those, to eliminate everything and do all the replanting there. But in the absence of deer debris, what we found just from ecological view of the world is that in the absence of deer, native plants can compete. With deer, they don't have a chance. So we're looking at these three spots really as areas where the seed or propagules and the plants that are established can spread into the rest of the area.
Okay, so the walking trails that you had talked about aren't anywhere in this fenced-in area, is that true?
Not yet. And it's a good question. It's one that we would prefer over time input because there's a lot of wetland out here. There's some interesting areas, but we also want to make sure we're avoiding the most sensitive areas. And the placement of that trail will need to be done with care.
Well, care and timing is then correct. So when you require the invasives to go and then the new plants to acclimate, and then you can start looking at a trail, is that correct?
Yes.
And so you are going to be involved in knowing what's out there and how it's being taken care of and, is that correct also?
Yes.
Any other questions for Mr. Gallagher? Mr. Lambert?
Is the entire park going to be fenced in or just certain wooded areas?
Just this area in the southeast corner, and I'm not sure the exact acreage, but it's probably about 15 acres.
Yeah, Mr. Lambert, why don't you get
Come
on
on.
closer?
I don't know if it shows up very well on board.
That's here. So it would be north of the rail line.
That's the whole park. Because all that is coming right into my yard. You're preventing everything from moving through your place. They're going to have to go through my place. So that's the whole yard to stay in.
Okay, you'll have an opportunity, Mr. Lambert, to provide comments after the witnesses for the applicant. So
Okay.
keep that thought, and you'll have an opportunity to tell us your ideas. But I guess I would phrase what Mr. Lambert asked as a question, Mr. Gallagher, and to see if you could answer. Would the fencing of the area, as you described it, tend to affect the movement of deer in the vicinity outside of the fence? Do you have any opinion about that?
Yes. We're excluding them from an area, but based on the range that deer would feed over, it's not the only area they're feeding. It's part of it. So if they're going to another part of the forest somewhere along the creek, they're still going to use that area. If they're eating plants in people's yards, they'll be eating plants in these people's yards. So they go over time. And if there's food there now, they're going there. So it will change the pattern. But it's not like this is the only place they live, and now we're moving them next door. They're feeding over a much larger area.
You just took a huge part of the area, you're going to flunk trailers on it.
And if there's plants for them to feed there, they're going to feed there.
They don't live there.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said, there's too much density, there's too many trailers. You gotta cut down the amount, you gotta spread them out a little bit. I'll show you pictures of my yard when it rains. I don't care how many times he says to keep the water on his property, not gonna happen.
All right, Mr. Lambert, you'll have an opportunity to provide testimony. Thank you, though. I understand you have some things you want to share with the board. So, any other questions for Mr. Gallagher at this point?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Abel?
If I can call Mr. Fisher at this time. Herb, wherever you want to stand. You might want to stand there so people can hear you. Maybe you provide the plan. Okay. Take it that way. Sorry. So Herb, if you could just tell the board, please, how you're affiliated with Mobile mobile really free? What's your capacity with respect to the app?
I'm one of the three owners.
And would you please, make sure you speak up so the stenographer can hear you as well. Would you please tell the board, your background in business with respect to mobile home parks, your experience with mobile home parks, etc.
In 1972, I bought my first mobile home park, 217 spaces. And over a period of 2 years, I expanded to over 300 spaces and managed it for about 6-7 years. And it was in the state of Florida. And we dealt with a lot of deer in Florida. And I ended up selling it to my brother-in-law.
And do you currently own and operate other mobile home parks?
Yeah, I've owned about 14 or 15 mobile home parks over the last 25 years.
Okay, are they similar in size, or are they larger or smaller than what's?
Well, we have one right now that's 129 spaces. And we have a number of them that are 70 spaces, 64 spaces, 81 spaces, 49 spaces, 56 spaces.
And how did you come to acquire a mobile home park? You could just give some brief background.
This park went through bankruptcy by a previous owner, and we were involved in going to the bidding with the bankruptcy court to their trustee, and we were approved as a buyer. And something went haywire between the lender and the trustee, and so my sale was negated, canceled. And so the lender went out and went through foreclosure themselves and with their attorney, and finally got clear title, came back to me, offered it to me, and we bought it.
And what kind of shape was the mobile home park in when you acquired it?
It was not in very good shape.
And in what way was it not in very good shape?
It was in violation of township ordinance. It had electrical issues. It did not meet the health inspection for Chester County. And so we had to deal with it. And we spent a lot of money and a lot of effort to clean it up. And in fact, our manager and his wife is sitting right here. And I won't ask him because I paid the bills and I know what we spent to this date. And I can honestly say right now, I think we are in compliance with township ordinance as best as possible and health authorities. But it's a park that has problems, and so we purchased it to do exactly what we're doing today.
And with respect to the proposed development, how would you propose to operate and maintain that park?
We would operate it the way we do most parks. Our management company, which is part of our company, we manage the park. We're day-to-day on hands. We always have a manager on the park. We're totally against a park not being cleanly. It must be manicured. It must have flowers and trees. We have a stiff cleanliness lawn mowing practice. We have one of the toughest leases in Pennsylvania, and our rules and regulations require tenants to live up to our standards.
And how do you, when you go through the tenant selection process, how do you advise the tenants and move forward with them purchasing trailers for the property? What's your standard procedure?
Yeah, most of the parks that we have currently today, we purchased from a previous owner. I have developed a number of them, and when we come in, we do the development, and one of these gentlemen asked about, the dirt and what it was. That's why we built it out right away, because in 6-7 months, we would be completed with all of our dust. And we do water. I know we talked about dust this lady. We water our dusty streets every day, and so we maintain that as we develop it. As far as managing it, we work with tenants, and we're tough, but we're fair, and in all ways.
And do you have limits on the types of trailers that can be purchased and who they can buy them from?
We do.
And if you
must meet the appearance of the home must be clean, it must be free of algae, it must be of a model that is conducive to today's standards for mobile homes. Yes, there's a lot of older homes that are good looking and they qualify.
Do you have the builders that they can select from, the manufacturers that they can select from?
We do, we control that. We buy a lot of our new homes from Redmond Industries here in Lancaster County, and they would be involved in this project along with one or two other companies that we approve.
And what's the process when a tenant is no longer going to lease their lot, their unit? What happens then with respect to the trailer?
We file a notice through the JP.
Are they required to take their trailer off-site?
Exactly.
And what happens if they don't take their trailer off-site?
We remove it.
I think one of the supervisors was asking a question previously about what would you do with existing residents on the property? What's the process in terms of their remaining there or not remaining there post-development?
Well, it's a tough question because the homes there are not new homes. And I think the testimony tonight already is that we're looking for new homes. And that's a stance that we have at this moment. And we will be working with the current tenants and helping them get involved in a new home purchase. We do internal financing ourselves. We look for bank financing. We even go so far as if a clientele cannot qualify because of credit score, we actually aid them in that. So our commitment is to do the best we can with those tenants that qualify, and they will have to qualify. We have not gone through that process and don't intend to do that at this point yet.
And one of the other things that Mr. Brennan talked about was the trash enclosures around the property, and I think Mr. Hartman touched on that as well from a planning commission recommendation. How do you normally operate trash hauling and removal on your property?
We do one carrier, and we write description of their cleanliness. When they come in, they've got to have the size of the pickup unit that actually shelters in a windy day from blowing trash all over the park. And our managers do follow up and pick up trash that you can't avoid sometimes coming out of the dumpster. I will tell you that in my looking at our plan, the planning commission asked for 4. I personally don't think 4 is adequate. And so I'm going on record to say that we take and we evaluate how many homes fit the size of the dumpster. We're not sure if you're going to use an 18-yard, a 12-yard. If we're going to go to a compact, we may even consider a small compact. And so that's something that through land plan and all of that, we will evaluate that and advise our engineers to add that to the plan, and as they go through the planning process, we'll be involved.
And I think there were planning commission members that agree with you that there should be more than 4. So that's something you're willing to increase.
And it's not only the capacity, because the capacity we take care of. If our dumpster company has to come in, more than once a week, we do it. And so it's based on how quickly they fill up. But more importantly is how far our tenants have to walk. Because we find that if they're elderly tenants, they don't want to walk 200 yards to a dumpster. So we take that into consideration.
And with your manager, your on-site manager, being individual monitoring.
They are in charge. They're in charge, yeah.
I have nothing further from Mr. Fisher.
Mr. Fisher, you were present for Mr. Brennan's testimony, and you heard Mr. Halem's comments about the planning commission recommendations. And I just want to confirm that as one of the owners, that you agree that you would accept as conditions on the decision of the board supervisors, at least 4 trash collection areas, and you provide recreational facilities, including top lot, multi-sport court, and you'd be willing to talk to the school district about what would be appropriate for school buses. And you also, based on the board supervisors' request would provide whatever easement or title would be needed to have a rail trail go through that old railroad bed. Are you agreeable to all those things?
I am.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Fisher?
I do. The current condition that became of the park was maybe due to a little bit of a succession issue between the past owner. Do you have some type of, I heard you say that you're one of 3 people, and so do you have some type of management plan if in fact something would happen and everything would continue to function as normal?
There are 3 partners. I am the managing partner. And our company is structured so that if something happened to me, where, in fact, I'll go a step further. We have 2 ladies that literally run and communicate with the managers. And they are a team. And so I work with them, but our company is not, is deep enough that if something were to happen to me, I have plenty of experts within the company that help our employees.
Okay. And do you have a full-time maintenance person or something? Like if you had some type of maintenance issue, you have somebody that you can call and they'll come right out?
Oh, yeah. In fact, each one of our parks has a manager. And then we have a gentleman within our company that oversees the maintenance issues. Works with the manager.
Okay, I did go and visit your parking there at Holman's, and it was clean. It was nighttime. I went. It was right proud of being driving, so I went on Friday, and it was clean and everybody, the homes looked nice. Nothing. The skirting was all done, so it did look good. I mean, you could tell that somebody was keeping people.
Thank you. And I will tell you, we just bought that park December 27th. So we haven't had a spring and summer to do what we do, because we will add flowers and some trees and bushes and this type of thing. That's our newest acquisition. So if you saw it when we just bought it in December, thank you for the comment.
Yeah. I just have one more comment. There's been a lot of talk in the community in regard to the condition of Brandywine Terrace, that it had, unfortunately fallen into a condition which was not that great, let's say. And, that there's concern that, there's going to just be a continuation of that current condition to keep going forward. Did you have any comments in regard to that? Can you make any comments about that?
It will not look like that. Because if you really look at the plan that I'm proposing, everything goes. And so what I'm saying is that the new park will have all new homes. So we will work with the tenants that qualify when we open up the new park. And those that want to stay, that qualify, we will help them buy new homes. We are not putting any used homes in this park.
And there's not going to be any allowed existing sitting trash and
No way.
debris and, right, so it'll be a complete 180 from what it is.
It'll be 180.
There's just a lot of talk within the community, and I wanted to get that out on the record.
I would have been disappointed if you wouldn't have asked that question.
Any other questions from the board?
I did have one more question. I just wanted to make sure I understood this right. The bus, because there's also some talk within the township about traffic on 322. And I think if you did, stop the bus on 322, or even on the side of 322, and ask for a whole trailer park full of kids to get on it, it would certainly slow down 322, which is already obviously congested. Is that something that, I heard that you're going to have a pull-off area where the bus could in fact pull off and get out of the roadway?
We don't know how that's going to work yet, because we have to work with PennDOT on that as well. But we're certainly willing to look at it and see how we can accommodate that, knowing that that is a need and an issue. So I don't know if it'll be a pullover or if it'll be some location where yet, but as Mr. Hartman asked us if we were agreeable to a condition of approval, that would be such a condition. That would be working with the school district, township, and PennDOT to create a safe area for school-age children who would be getting on bus and off bus.
Greg, if I can add,
Sure.
having been a developer all my life, I would be shocked if PennDOT would not ask for a decel lane. And that would be so unlike PennDOT not to ask for that. So I think it's working with decels, bus park, and bus pool. We're sensitive to that. Our parks have children, and we do everything to maintain safety. And so whatever it takes that we have, because a park this size will have children. We're not going to do a 55 in our park.
I would just say, at this stage of the process, I think the most that we can ask for is cooperation and have those discussions, because it will be a combination of PennDOT, the school district, and the township who will need to have that conversation.
And then just one more thing. So if you had somebody, let's say, that let the skirt come off their trailers, do you have some type of like free strikes policy, or I got a copy of your legislation. But if someone continued to leave their home, look in a deteriorated fashion, let's say, you do have some type of permanent remedy for that, where you'd ask them to maintain or they have to go.
We do not let it get to that point. In fact, we provide high-pressure washes within each park. Now, I will tell you, in Brandywine, it can't happen. Because in some cases, the home would disintegrate with high pressure. But we have it, we give it to all of our tenants free of charge. We give them 24 hours. They pick the day, they pick it up in the morning, they bring it back at night, and we have an inspection policy that goes in and make sure that the allergies are all gone and anything that is out of place. We have, and I'd be happy to provide you with one of our leases. I think.
Yeah, we got
Oh,
one.
yeah, okay. We have a notice provision. The longest that we give a tenant to clean up the exterior of their home is 15 days. And we don't give them a second notice. They learn very quickly that when they get their notice tacked to their door and sent by certified mail in the mailbox, then in 15 days, we take it to the JP. And we go through a hearing process. And yes, I would say 95% or 99% will adhere to it. And so they'll go back, the judge will give them a week, whatever it is, to clean it up. And if they don't clean it up, there's a repercussion. And that's the way we operate. Same way with paying rent. We're pretty tough on that. We're friendly, we give tolerance, but when the tolerance is over, then they need to pay. And the other thing is, and I think Ernie will testify this, he said we work with tenants. We work with tenants and introduce them to the whole idea. We'll teach them how to have a budget. Because the most important thing is the real estate drive to work and the house they live in. And so they need to learn to budget their money. And if it takes sending Mark, one of our accountants, in the office, will do that, help them. And so.
Thank you.
Any other questions from Mr. Fisher from the board? Okay, Mr. Lambert, I know you had some questions about economics, about work and things like that. This would be your opportunity to ask questions. But again, I want to remind you that your time to make statements is going to be in a few minutes. This is time for questions.
What is the price point of the trailers that are in the park?
Today, if you were to buy a 16-foot by roughly a 70-foot from Redmond's, and we do not mark up the price, we put it in, we will set it up, and our price point, low price point is 39, and it goes probably to 45, 44, 45. Yeah.
Have you ever developed parking and flipped it and sold it?
I have developed a park, a couple of parks, and held it for 6, 7 years.
Okay, so 6, 7 years down the line, we can't have your guarantee.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that territories change. The ones that I sold were one in Daytona Beach, Florida, I spoke of earlier. And the second one was 6 miles off the New York line at the top of Route 81, Green Valley Park. And they were outside an area where we felt it was too far for us to manage.
So
As far as the parks that are within our hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, the furthest park we have from Lancaster now is about an hour and a half. Those parks, we have no intentions of selling.
So we're kind of guaranteed.
No, I can't guarantee I'm living tomorrow morning.
I understand that, but your presentation is beautiful, but if you're not around it, fulfill it.
I understand that. I do have a trust. Incidentally, I do have a trust in my family, so that if I kick the bucket, my kids will take my place.
Why single wide, why not 50 double wide?
We do feasibilities in every area. And I would ask you a question. Why isn't there any parks within 5 miles of this land that are totally double wides?
Well, I mean,
It's a price point.
Well, next door is,
It's a price point.
okay, so let's bring the township up, let's raise it up instead of dragging it back down.
We are.
You're not. It's
Yeah,
single
well,
wide.
because if you put new homes in there, $40,000 to $50,000, that's a far cry.
Okay, well, next door put in $110,000. Why can't we bring it up? Why can't we raise it up to the neighbors?
What did they buy $107,000? Because that's not single wides.
No, they're modulars. Well, why can't you do it?
We're not a modular. We're a
Okay, well,
modular.
let's go back to the double wide. Why can't we do 50 double wides and then take all that? You only have 100 cars leaving every morning instead of 226 or more.
The market, as we know, as we've tested, is not a $150,000 market for a double wide home.
Next door is sold out, down the street sold out, and brand new condos, they're doing a great
There's
down
a difference between mobile homes and a condo.
Oh, I understand. But, yeah, you're dragging everybody down with you. And you're gonna drag my property down with you.
No, it's not.
What's that? Absolutely they do. A single wide is $39,000 today, it's gonna be $15,000 next year.
But you're looking at double wides, which are in a number of parks in that area, that are 12 wides, maybe up to 14 wides. The new single wides are 16s. All these will be 16 wide homes.
Okay.
Mr. Lambert, do you have any other questions?
No.
Mr. Edwin, do you have any other witnesses?
No, I don't have to move the admission of my exhibits.
Mr. Lambert, do you have any objection to the board accepting the exhibits that have been offered by Mr. Edwin?
No.
Okay. I would recommend the board that the exhibits all be accepted. Mr. Lambert, this would be the time when you can allow yourself, were you sworn already? I don't think you were. You should, if you wish to provide testimony, this would be the time where you should allow yourself to be sworn, and then you can provide testimony to the board.
Okay, that's fine. It's more of a statement than it is but
Just for the testimony, you're about to give the truth, all truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
All the board members here know what Riddell Road looks like in a rainstorm. That's a lot of water. And the gentleman over here said, we're gonna keep it all on the property. It's not, it can't happen. They're dropping down a 6-story building. How they got past the point of that prohibited slope, I don't know. But anybody wants to go for a trail walk someday, you want to see what that slope is gonna be. They're gonna have a real hard time getting cars up and down there in the winter unless they bulldoze that place flat. That's an 80-foot drop. They can't keep the water. It's going to come down there. My yard is flooded constantly. They allowed the guy upstairs, must have clear cut 30 acres, apparently without a permit. We're always underwater. So, if there was any kind of more of a buffer, that's why I asked about the FEMA map. The FEMA map I have shows the water table up into the trails. It's up. So I don't know at what point that gets taken into consideration. I'm down to the geological survey today. I got their maps. I've been over to the Chester County Planning Commission. I've talked to those guys. I don't know where it goes from here, where the planning process goes. But there's too much.
Yeah, land development takes care of water runoff. That's where that gets addressed. It's not in this part of the.
And Karen, is there a list of when all this is done? Does the township have a list of meetings and all with planning commissions and?
The planning commission meets the same time every month. What is their regular night?
It's Thursday.
Fourth Thursday.
The fourth Thursday at 7 p.m. here at the township building is when the township planning commission meets. That is the body that will be looking at what we call the land development plan. And the land development plan includes, among other things, the stormwater management planning for the project. So you're welcome to attend those meetings and observe what's happening and offer comments as that process moves forward, if the zoning approval is granted by the supervisors. And I don't know if Mr. Fisher or Mr. Edelman has any idea when that plan will come in. I guess Mr. Brennan will probably be the one presenting.
He would know better than we would because he is prepared.
Do you have any idea when you might submit a plan?
As soon as possible. We're still at least a couple months away before making a decision.
One other question. All these gentlemen here, show of hands, who would want this in their backyard?
Well, I guess you could ask Mr. Fisher if he would live in or next to one of his parks. I don't know. Try to ask him a specific question.
Okay. Would any of these gentlemen want that park touching in their backyard?
You live next to a property that's owned for mobile homes.
My property touches that boundary.
Right.
I'm squarely in the sights of that property.
And your property is next to a property that is owned for mobile homes. So you chose to be there as well.
I'm okay with a different configuration, but you're going back to a 2003 code. Let's bring it on up to 2018 code.
I'm not going to argue.
Okay, I know you can't argue.
You asked the question.
But I'll ask the board to delay a vote on this this evening for now, until I can get some kind of legal representation. I don't know why. Apparently, there was a letter written 2 days before the code was changed. That's the only thing I can come up with at this point.
Well, actually, the current zoning ordinance allows the mobile home park without them even having a hearing. It is a use permitted by right in the same zoning district. So the fact that they are here tonight in a conditional use hearing with you having the right to be a party and to provide testimony, that is a decision that they made to proceed under that old ordinance where the conditional use hearing was required. Because under the 2018 zoning ordinance, the use is permitted without a hearing. So it's not like they snuck in under the tent or something like that. The adoption of the new zoning ordinance did not increase or diminish their privileges. If anything, it reduced the public participation that would be necessary for them to comply with the zoning requirements.
So let's see a show of hands, but that's better.
Well,
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lambert. So just so I understand, your concerns that are primarily about stormwater?
The water.
Water.
We are underwater with every storm now. That used to be a once every 10 years when that first flooded, that was something to go look at. This is every week.
And that's an
And the roadmaster knows about Verdell Road, but they have to keep putting signs up.
And that's an existing condition without the expansion of the park, is that correct?
Yes.
But your concern is that it will be made worse?
It's going to be made worse.
I understand your concern. Ms. Valen, did you have any questions for Mr. Lambert?
No.
All right. Since Mr. Marshman went home, I believe that we're finished with our testimony. So I would suggest to the board that this would be the time to close the record, unless, Ms. Valen, did you have any closing you wanted to offer?
Just briefly to say to the board, we appreciate your consideration this evening and prior times that you've been able to take the time to listen to the presentation that's been made tonight, as well as with respect to zoning variances. We believe we have satisfied your criteria under the ordinance. And as Mr. Fisher, myself, and Mr. Brennan testify, we're willing to agree to the conditions from the planning commission that were recommended. We request that you grant the application with those conditions so that we may proceed forward with land development on the lot. Thank you.
I was wondering if I could ask a question. Everyone's for
well, you know, you did indicate you wanted to be a party. Can you just tell me how close is your property to the applicant's property?
About half a mile.
About half a mile. And your name, again, remind me, is?
First name Joshua, last name Kittle, K-I-T-T-L-E.
Okay. What question do you have?
My question is really for the board of supervisors. I live in Village Green, and we have a police officer who sits in our development and does paperwork. Conversations that have been had with this police officer is that they feel more comfortable sitting in our development to do paperwork than in neighboring developments. So with this mobile home park expanding by 2/3, what is your commitment to making sure that the police even feel safe in the area to be able to do their job in the area?
That's beyond the scope of this application.
Yeah, I would say so. I don't think that's really relevant to the determination the board has to make. The board can answer that as a time they wish to. I would recommend that we close the record unless the board has any concern about doing that at this time. Close the record. Okay. So the record is closed. At this point, the board has a couple of options. The board can make a motion regarding the ultimate outcome, which could be an approval, could be an approval with conditions, could be a denial. The board could ask for an executive session, at which point you could ask any legal questions you may have about what has occurred tonight. Third option is you do have the right to postpone any official determination until next month's meeting, because you have, under the law, 45 days to render a decision on the matter. So how would the board like to proceed? Okay, so the board is going to recess into an executive session to discuss legal questions with me, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Right.
It's all much.
Okay, before we come back into the session of this conditional use hearing, and based on the discussion in the executive session, I'm going to recommend a motion to the board of supervisors, and that recommendation would be to approve the application of Mobile Realty 3 LLC for a conditional use or a mobile home park use at the property in question, subject to the following conditions. That the applicant discuss with the school district transportation office plans for bus loading, unloading, and provide sufficient sidewalks, loading areas, pull-offs, etc. as necessary. 2, the applicant provide active recreational facilities for the community on site, such as a top lot multi-purpose court, in addition to passive trails. 3, at least 4 trash collection areas be provided for trash removal, and that trash removal be conducted at recurring intervals as necessary to avoid overflowing of collection areas. And 4, that the applicant provide an easement for whatever title is necessary for the township to receive transportation funding to construct a rail-to-trail project on the rail bed that passes through the property. That is the recommended motion.
I make a motion to approve the conditions.
Second.
I'll third the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
For the information of the applicant and the public, the written decision of the board will be issued within 45 days, hopefully sooner. Any of the parties who is discontented with the written decision would have the opportunity to appeal to the Court of Common Pleas within 30 days thereafter. Any questions about what has occurred tonight? If not, thank you all very much, and I want to thank Nancy, our stenographer, for her efforts.
Thank you, Catherine.
I'll second the motion. Aye.
That's the problem, we're fighting, it's a stigma, I used to.
I'll make a
That's the
motion.
problem.
Okay.
We're fighting attitudes like you guys, well, it's a shithole, I know it's a shithole, I got that.
Can we
I
have-
had to wait 3 or 4 years to take care of that place, so.
Can we have order,
Good luck.
please?
All right.
Thank you.
John,
Yeah, which is not
Meeting, my father, emergency survey. The plan tonight is a lot add-on plan, stated for 713 Mount Pleasant Road. Subject property is located in highlighted here in blue on this plan. This is the plan that was submitted, the original submission plan to the township. The area to be annexed would be this area in orange. So the orange and blue would comprise the newly configured lot. Currently it's at 2.6 acres. We'd be adding 2 acres in the rear. The result land would be 4.5 for net acres. It's coming off the property Christian sold in the rear. That property consists of about 22 acres. It would have about 19 acres. It's a change, maybe and a half. We have addressed comments and resubmitted to Technicon on April 1st, I believe, after the planning commission meeting, based on their original letter dated March 22. Thank you. Those comments have been, as I understand, primarily addressed. We have no issues with the comment letters or the conditions of that letter. So we'll look at the second sheet, briefly. Market site view. These are the improvements that are on the current 713 Mount Pleasant Road. This area here is cultivated in the back. These will be used for additional meadow, race steer food, etc.
And the planning commission did review this, and they recommended additional final plan approval based on compliance with our March 22nd letter, which obviously is wrong noted. We do have revisions, we just have to review those items, and we can make that motion this evening.
I'd like the motion to grant.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
That's the first time somebody said it's going to take 30 seconds, and it only took 30 seconds. I appreciate that. I try to be truthful.
Can you stop it? I can make it even quicker.
Let me, Mark, just let me, let me try to interrupt. You're good. I'm good. I'm Mark Kaplan, and I represent the Brook Estates. I think we all know the history, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the history. We entered into a settlement agreement back in September of 2017. It was approved by the court. Mark submitted the plans. Plans have been reviewed in accordance with the settlement agreement. Township engineer had comments. Mark revised the plans. We've got basically a clean letter. The board acted on a series of waivers and modifications, and we've been able to incorporate them into the set of plans. The review letter is a series of items, most of which are items that we have to comply with by getting other permits and approvals. There's one change to the plan that's requested, has to do with the sidewalks and where you want them, and we're fine with that. So with that, Mark can go through the plan, but I suspect that from what I've seen, the board's pretty up to speed on what we've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you as much or as little presentation as you need. Address 3531 Horseshoe Pike. It's 37 single-family residential lots. Entrance off Horseshoe Pike, and you can see the street system about 2,100 linear feet of street. Storm basins, we have 3. Here, one on the left-hand side here, one towards the back, one on the far right-hand side, and the west grading one is back here. So essentially, that marks that, you know, we've been through Mike back and forth, and I think we have a pretty tight, at least for the preliminary plan, recommendation subject to
And the board has a copy of the letter of March 18th, I believe, in your file. As was presented, we're basically down to items where you would be looking at entertaining a conditional preliminary plan approval, given compliance with this March 18th letter, a lot of which are outside agency type issues, PennDOT, DEP, sewer authority order, those types of items. So they would carry over then again to the final plan approval process. Does the board have any questions related to the review or the project itself?
Make a motion for it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. No problem.
I'll make a motion to direct the solicitor back.
I'll second.
Aye. Contracts for high materials, union price down, and line company vote.
I'll make a motion to adopt. Aye.
Which is authorized, not authorized, dismissal to outside the public hearing, you know, when the work is made, when the deadline is due on Saturday, to the supervisor, action and review, and contract, franchise, or
Make a motion to
I'll second.
all fair side?
Aye.
Those who authorize the solicitor to advertise the orders authorizing the supervisor to enter into a franchise agreement.
I'll make a motion to direct.
I'll second.
All fair say aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve and execute financial security recommended by TechCom for money from church in the amount of $15,807.30. Second approval.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
And that's really in the amount of $4,329.75 for stormwater management group.
Make a motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, you bet, oh, you bet.
One thing I do want to ask about what we're hearing tonight, and the ability for TechCom or traffic manager or the supervisors to get out to some of these places, when we're hearing these complaints. Do we have any changes that we can do to improve that response? So one of the things, could we consider having someone on a temp basis to go out there, check these complaints on a regular basis?
And I think that, I think each complaint is going to be unique. And I have some ideas that I'd like to talk to Mike about, and perhaps we can implement, with Mrs. Crowe, starting with Mrs. Crowe's complaint. Like I said, I think each one's going to perhaps take a different response depending on what it is. So,
Well, to the point of, they keep sending us, evidence and stuff in the complaint, but, we're not able to act on it. I remember the Scrub being here in December, and,
well, at that time, the board had,
And we
Brook
did
had
that.
their time to go out 5 times, which they did, and there were no violations. There was nothing.
but then we hear that subsequent to that, it's picked up again.
Well, like I said, I'd like to see what Mrs. Crowe has, and then brainstorm how we can perhaps get a larger sample than 5 days without having Technicon hang out there the whole time or something.
The other part of that is you have to also realize that this is an existing business.
I understand that.
And the noise violation I was actually hearing these new ones, separate from the ones we looked at in December. But a lot of the ones that we talked about tonight had to do with during the day. So they may not actually be violations because they don't fit, or within that time frame when a normal business operation would be occurring. So we have to be careful as far as enforcement for noise, if it is in fact during the daytime of a normal business operation. So I understand what you're saying, and we're not certainly saying that we won't go out when asked. So we just haven't been asked to, proceed with any of these new complaints that we've just got.
Those are tomorrow, we could, right? Anybody feel that, those are tomorrow?
I addressed you back in January about a bunch of complaints, and I gave you photographs, and Mr. Landis says, complaint forms February 15th. I filled out 91 pages, consisting of 145 violations, and I was wondering what the status is on those complaint forms that were turned into your office, Mr. Landis, on February 15th.
Yes, the status is this: the decision was made by me to not have anybody go out and investigate those until the employment letter has passed. So we're going to start doing that. In fact, it's going to be the Public Works Department. We'll start doing that this month. And when we have, something to report, we'll do that. But we weren't going to go out and fight the weather, while it's still snowing. What's that?
It was a pretty mild winter.
I don't know. Our snow, our ice use was pretty good. But yeah, that's what we're going to do.
And then I had a question to Mr. Hartman. He sent a letter to my attorney dated March 13th saying nothing is in existence and stuff is still in existence. I mean, Mr. McHugh went by again towards the end of March, and then saw the same thing still exists 2 years later. He said no violations exist. I mean, it's adequate documentation. You're about to ask my attorney to send photos. Photos were taken, so photos have been submitted to your office. Yeah, you still deny anything exists. It's going to the Board of Common Pleas for final paperwork. You get your notice, and all the violations for the certified registered letters that have gone to the township that have gone unaddressed since June when my attorney came in here, presented 8 packages to you with documentation showing all the violations that haven't been complied with. Mr. Reinhardt, you came out January 7th, and again, saw from the upstairs the light shining into the second floor. It was pulsating, which is against the codes. So, I mean, you wanted tonight, you got a letter from Mr. Hartman stating that no violations exist, but on January 7th, you were out and saw it. And you wanted to deny it. He saw it. You sent him out. So keep denying it, and it'll be in court. That's all I had to say. The township's going backwards, and you're just a laughing stock. All the other municipalities just keep laughing about him. So.
Anybody else with that? Anybody to adjourn? All in favor?
So upcoming meeting, April 11th, the Adjustment Committee, April 18th, Parks and Recreation, 7:30 p.m., April 25th, Planning Commission, May 1st, Device Workshop, May 8th, Supervisor, regular meetings, and we got May 9th, Park and Recreation. Thank you everyone for attending.
Now on April 27th. Sorry, April 27th, Planning Commission?
25th planning.
25th?
Yeah, that plan's not going to be on the agenda.
How I know that plan is on the agenda?
Well, we always provide the township with the agenda about a week and a half prior. So if you call into the office about a week prior to your plan, you can find out what's on the agenda.
Okay, Planning Commission is every